of last week's minutes.
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Tony.
Second.
Thank you, Martha. Anything that needs to be amended? I found some things.
All right.
Under number 1, we do not ordinarily identify members of the public who come unless they ask to be identified. So I think we need to strike that. Number 8, I think should read, Mr. Chianowski made a motion to place on the March Australian ballot the proposal to change the length of the terms, right?
Okay.
And under 10, the Emerald Ash Borer update, I think it's worth putting in what this other part, which was Mr. Mance proposed, creating a town firewood bank and finding ways to use the disaster for positive results. Right, because that was a big piece of his presentation. Okay, and under the mold in Cole Hall, actually, as I remember it, Paula said that the company will be providing an estimate on remediation. I couldn't remember the name of that company. Servpro.
Yeah,
That was kind of the main announcement, right?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Right, but we should have it in the... Okay. And under 13, Meals on Wheels ride-along for Select Board members, I would like to add, Ms. Miller asked for Select Board volunteers to ride along one day in February, because that's, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. That was all I had. Sorry, that was a lot.
Thank you, Mike.
So do we need
Yes, thank you, Mike.
a new motion to approve the amended version that you just created?
Thank you. Would you like to move that?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
Seconded. Thank you, Tony. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Do we have other minutes that we want to do, or do we want to push them down the,
We'll push them so I can... make
Separate them out.
bottom board. Yeah.
okay. Announcements. I have an announcement.
Right.
This is Martha Cornwell's last regular Select Board meeting.
No.
So I would like to thank you very much for your 3 years of wonderful service.
Thank you very much. I will miss you all, but I will not be going very far. I will be doing other things, just not on the capacity of the board level.
Yes, and related to that, I would like to say, she is, we appointed her as our voting member on the BCRC.
Okay.
That was years ago.
Years ago. And
In
we-
my first year being on the board. We did.
If we don't do anything, she will continue in that role.
And
and
we'll kind of continue to provide updates if
Super.
needed.
So we will
Because there's
continue
a
to
lot
hear from her
happening.
as our liaison.
Good.
Yeah.
And she will be voting there for us.
Yes.
So that means if we have things we want brought to the BCRC, we will be contacting Martha. Okay, we can change that at any time we want. The person who was doing that before was Cinda Morse. Yeah.
Morse, yes, who served for a very long
A long
time, and, yes, passed it on to me, so,
Okay. Thank you, Martha.
thank you. And then we also have, once again, our town meeting, the first of our 2 town meetings this year, February 11th, Tuesday, Shaftsbury Elementary School. 5:30 starts the info session, and then after that, we will have the public meeting and vote. So please come on out. To be able to vote, you have to be there in person, but there will be a Zoom component if people just want to follow along with what's happening. And there'll be a lot of information that a lot of great folks on multiple committees have been working on to kind of put together. And I'm quite sure they will answer many of the questions that are floating around in the community.
Yep. And to reinforce what she just said, you must be present to vote. It is a floor budget vote, actually. Okay, public comments. These are not really public.
No.
And Rob, is Rob here as a member of the public? Okay.
Yes, so member of the public this evening.
Hi, Rob.
No comments.
Okay.
No comments? Okay, thank you. Marie, no comments? No comments from Marie. Okay. The treasurer's report.
Warrants.
Oh, warrants, oh, God. I'm so sorry. Whoops.
All right.
Last week, we didn't even have any warrants on the agenda.
We have check warrant report 25021 for $15,506.93.
So moved.
I'll second.
Excellent. Items over 1,000. Hathaway Electric is for $3,003.73.
That's DPW, they needed some electrical work done at the garage.
$1,460.45 to RCS Consulting, assuming for all of our technical
Yes, for February, I believe.
that's happening here at Cole Hall. $6,369 to Sullivan Powers and Company.
That's our professional audit, part of their fee.
Perfect. And then we have $825 for just a random one to Clearview Inspections.
That is the molded inspection. There are two of those charges. One was for Cole Hall and one was for the medical building.
Excellent. And we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, at our meeting on the 11th.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's fine.
Okay.
Taxes and retirement.
Oh, got it. Okay, so we have another payroll warrant 7, and this is for all of the FEMAs and taxes for our town employees, and that comes to $31,653.01.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I guess I should state for the record, too, that our portion of that $31,653.01 is $11,757, just
Thank you, sorry.
for the record.
Send that one back.
Yep, thank you.
Okay,
Now the treasurer.
treasurer's report.
Scrape this time. Hello, everybody.
Wasn't so bad. Hi.
Can we look at the cash flow real quick, please? But this with the caveat that this is actually not, I didn't project it to budget because it's not actually officially finalized, because there was some stuff Tiffany still needs to do before I can transfer everything over to the general ledger. So this is going to, I don't think there's hardly anything that you didn't already see, because we had that special meeting just last week. So we've already discussed all of this, except for the transfer station. I finally got to the bank. So you see a hefty that's been accumulating for a while, 19,000. Let's see. We talked about the interfund transfer. That was just mostly some checks that you've been approving that were drawn on. One of the larger ones, well, obviously the big water one, but also the the ongoing work with the reassessment. There was some money in there. That's that 110,230.60 you see there. So I'm not going to project it to final budget at the first meeting in February. We will go back and look at January, and I'll be able to do that then. So if you want to take a quick look at the reserve accounts, nothing we haven't already discussed here either. You see at the 260 line, you see that's the amount that went to North Bennington, basically. Except for there's a little bit of payments to Josh in there too. Restoration fund, you see money coming in as well as going out. That's at the 350 line, 2/3 of the way down. ARPA funding, we're still drawing that down. It's under 5,000 now. We've already talked about all of this stuff. If you want to go just a tiny bit lower, or is that the whole thing? Maybe I do. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So you see quite a bit of interest still coming in. I think interest rates are going to hold steady for a little while, so we'll still be seeing those very, very high interest rates there. Any questions about any of that? No, there's almost nothing new that we didn't already discuss. Okay. I will make another official reminder that people should get their HS 122s in when they do their taxes. I am getting requests every day from many people who threw away their tax bills because they forgot that there's information on there you need when you do your income tax. The information for filling out the home site information when you do your taxes is actually online. All of that is non-public and is public information. So if you go to Grand List for Tax Preparers, which Jen already put up, it's right there on our town website. So you don't, if you want to call me for a copy of your bill, you can, but actually the information that you need is all online now.
Great.
It basically is just the house site value, which is the first 2 acres of your property, and the amount of tax that is associated with that. You need to fill that in on your, I guess on your HS 122. Any questions about any of that?
No,
Thank you.
thank
Okay.
you, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, DPW report, and we have Mike here with us.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't really have a lot to say as we're not really working on a lot right now. I mean, we are, but no projects. Just plowing, maintaining the roads and equipment. Maintaining the equipment's been pretty big lately. A couple of the older tandems have been giving us a hard time, just with silly breakdowns, but we've been managing and getting through. There was something else I wanted to say, but I do. So last year I received a V-Trans Structures grant on. It's a culvert on Horton Hill, and we had a paving grant and a structures grant. We did the paving grant on White Creek Road, but funding-wise, it was just not enough to match it to do both grants at once. So this spring, within the next couple weeks, I would like to put that project out to bid. It's pretty good box culvert. It's right at the bottom of Horton Hill, right at the intersection of Rowland Road. There's an old bridge right there, and it's in really bad. It's in.
He knows.
You know, yeah, which one it
The
is.
narrow bridge.
That narrow one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we received the funding to replace it, so.
Oh, my goodness.
So in the next
That's
couple,
great.
the next couple weeks, you'll see. I'll give it to Paula, but you'll see on the agenda that you'll probably be getting some bids to open or something.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a similar box culvert to what we did out in the Hollow, another aluminum box, but that's what I've been working on, and I'm getting that all drafted up so that I can meet with the contractors and have them go from there. V-Trans did just send out their spring packet, so I'll have some stuff at the next meeting for you guys to sign, just some road standards and stuff too, so. But that's about all I have right now. Does anybody have any questions or anything, or
You're
comments?
not going to interfere with the stream that goes under the aqueduct?
The bit that
No.
we sent
Okay.
back to
No,
him.
just that, just that stream there.
We sent back a bid to you last week.
Yes, the
for
gravel bids. Yeah, it's all set.
Okay.
Everything's good.
So that's what you recommend, because I think we have to vote on it
Officially vote
today.
on- oh.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Thank you,
wasn't sure
Martha.
that you did or not. All right,
No, we
yes.
were waiting for your recommendation.
because we
Yes. Oh,
usually
she's
send it
smart.
back to you to,
right. Yes.
like, yes, this is what we'd like.
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine. It's the same price as what it was before, so nothing's gone up.
Nothing's gone up.
No, so
Excellent.
I'm happy with that. And that would
Okay.
be for A&K aggregate service. I forget what the total name is.
Service.
Agri-service.
A&K Agri-Service.
Agri-service.
Shall, can I
There
have
we
a...
go. Here's the language right there.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the A&K Agri-Services bid to charge $9.75 per ton for gravel hauling from Wallingford crushed stone?
So moved.
Thank you, Tony. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. BCRC update. Scott Grimline.
Oh, I took the chair.
That's okay.
Welcome.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Good.
My name is Scott Grimlyon. I'm a regional planner with the Bennington County Regional Commission. We worked on a municipal planning grant with you this past year. If you wouldn't mind pulling up my PowerPoint presentation, that would be excellent. So it was a commercial sites inventory and assessment for the South Shaftsbury area, largely based around the Village Center District. You can move to the next slide. So the goals of the project, as was outlined in our contract, were to continue the forward momentum of the municipality's recent efforts to invest in the village center. That includes all the work you guys put over here and into Cole Hall, and then other work in the area, working with private investment as well in the area, as we've seen the general store coming back into place here, and then to determine where potential for commercial developments exists within the approximate borders of the town's village center. So this was a response to the ARPA survey that called for a vibrant and active commercial area, or a center of commerce was the term that was used. And so also the other purpose of this was to help develop resources for your Economic Development Committee to use in their ongoing work. So what we did is we put together, if you want to move to the next slide, we conducted a business inventory and did a data analysis on that inventory. We met with local employers throughout the district and had a series of interviews with them, had long conversations with them. We identified a number of properties throughout the area that have some development possibilities, and we'll talk about that and sort of the limitations of that and the methodology for that a little later in this. And then just overall to think about what the development potential is for the South Shaftsbury Village area, and where it can go and what types of expectations the town might be able to have based on market realities and things like lot size and other things that came up throughout the study. So next slide, please. The scope of the project was, of course, the South Shaftsbury area. So if you look at the map on here, the Village Center District is that large, thick orange line. It is a state designated district. As you know, it helps when you do certain studies in this area for you to get funding. Also, you guys specifically have a Village Center zoning district, which correlates very closely with the Village Center District. And that's that's a nice way of sort of designating where your downtown in the South Shaftsbury area is. It does stretch over and include a number of properties, including some industrial lands to the north and some, you have a commercial industrial space in the north there. And of course, there's a number of public facilities and other things happening here. There are 2 bus stops on the map because sometimes they stop at the community market and often they stop over at the buck stop it is now. There are some amenities, a couple of places to get counter service food in the area, a post office, a number of schools, religious institutions, and of course, park and future park space planned for the area here when you talk about the community center that's developing here. Next slide, please. We're lucky enough that South Shaftsbury is a census designated place, so it's fairly easy to get some data for the South Shaftsbury area that you can compare to Shaftsbury as a whole. It does include an area that's much larger than the village center as far as the census is concerned. It goes all the way, include basically all the way down to Town Line Road in the south and Twitch Hill Road to the west. But overall, the population for the South Shaftsbury area is 681, which is actually down nearly 100 people since the year 2000. Median age for the area is 47. Of that 681 population, there are 279 households. 24% of them have children under 18, and 65% of them have seniors, people over the age of 65. If you look at the chart on the left there, just a little bit of a comparison of trends, of rather the way population is in Shaftsbury as a whole compared to South Shaftsbury and Vermont. So despite that 64% with seniors over 65,
It's very interesting.
Look at that.
That's really,
That's really.
that visual is really.
64% of households, rather, are there.
And
But
that's
there
very
are.
important in terms of housing future stuff.
Wow.
So we can move to the next slide here. And then as we also talk about median income here, South Shaftsbury is substantially lower income than than the town as a whole, related to the median income. So that's impactful related to how spending would work and what types of businesses may or may not want to locate in the area. If they are businesses that are expecting the local population to be working on them. Now, all of these spending categories are by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, so this is just based on average American spending. Miscellaneous and, some people may spend more on reading. My wife certainly does, than 2% of our household categories. And we spend 0 on tobacco products and smoking supplies. So it is, again, this is a sort of general American average, but to some degree it gives a sense of what how people are spending their money and what they're expecting to spend their money on locally. This does not account for, of course, leakage, which is one of the bigger issues that you have here in South Shaftsbury. There's not a lot of options for most of these types of spending categories within the town limits.
And are these yearly numbers?
These are based on annual income.
Annual, okay.
This is your
annual.
if your annual, and then so if your median household income is 56,000, then average savings is 4.4%. So that's been taken out of that, and then the rest is the percentage of spending categories as
Broken down.
as broken down. Yeah.
Interesting. That's really
next slide.
interesting slide.
Yeah.
So we did a business inventory and a data analysis. So we looked at 2 sources. We worked over the summer to have an intern do a walk around with us, and then also had someone working with us to look on Google to figure out what business listings were publicly available, easy to see. Some of them were able to see only, sort of from street view, as you see a landscaper's sign, on the lawn, versus, something that has a listing, in Google itself. But by looking at our study area, which again is the Village Center District and the abutting, and include the abutting sites. We found 32 businesses within the area, and then we also examined Dun and Bradstreet, which is a national company that does business listings. They study. They sort of do stability on business listings, and they also have. It's one of those places where you buy a series of lists, but for marketing purposes and other things. And Dun & Bradstreet had for the area of South Shaftsbury 24 businesses listing and 125 businesses for the entire town of Shaftsbury. Of the South Shaftsbury business listings on Dun & Bradstreet, 77% were listed as stable businesses, 12% were listed as, I'm sorry, I wrote decay twice in that, but 12% were listed as growing and 11% were listed as in decay. That is the breakdown of that, and I will have to correct that slide.
It was confusing.
And so what does decay mean? Just that they're losing?
They consider whether it's a growing business or whether it's a business that is at risk in some way, shape, or form. So there's a risk analysis as well in the Dun & Bradstreet data, and again, that's something we'll be sharing with the Economic Development Committee, and they'll be able to look at and sort of try to judge the value of that data for their work. Next slide, please. Of the businesses we looked at, this is based on the higher number of businesses that we cataloged at BCRC. 10 were in home services, 6 were business services, 4 were healthcare, childcare, senior care. 3 businesses were businesses that were sort of a warehousing for some sort of website or internet shopping, Etsy store kind of situation. 3 in the other category, which includes things like the tattoo shop, which don't fit into other categories very well. 2 automotive services, 2 hospitality businesses, 1 caterer and the bed and breakfast, and then 2 retail establishments, which are also the same, that serve the counter service foods spaces. Next slide, please. Oh, you can go back. I'm sorry, if you could go back one more time. And just to say, so overall, most of the businesses in the South Shaftsbury area are part of the service industry. A large number of them are home businesses operated by people out of the home, possibly, second income business, not particularly clear, but often, home-based businesses, like for people that are doing services somewhere else. Like I said, landscapers, people in the home care industry, home services industries. And then if they're open to the public, they are largely appointment focused, again, to bring up again the tattoo shop, or there are a few, there's like a wellness center and things like that that are more appointment focused. Yeah. Next up, please. Thank you.
There's a wellness center?
That's a Google listing it for some sort of a, it'll anyway.
We'll have to look at all of these things.
Have to look at the list.
Interesting.
Yeah. We did 8 interviews with employers in the area, including Myers Prouty, Shaftsbury Country Store, Scott's A Plus Auto Repair, Peckham and Daily Precast. Even though they are slightly out of the study area, we thought that as the largest employer in the town, that they would be worth getting their opinions about the way that the South Shaftsbury area works. T&M Enterprises, which is where we are being, where this photograph is from, our day touring there. They were very generous with their time and eager to show us all of their injection molded plastics manufacturing process. Body Blend Studio and Alternatives Plus, which is in the Eagle Square. They are the mannequin That's the current name of the.
Okay, it's not Bernstein anymore.
There's been a number. They have a lot of layers of bureaucracy. But Alternatives Plus is the overarching company. The majority of their operations are now actually in Los Angeles. And right now, they're mostly just using the space as a small warehouse space. They're renting out some of the space to another tenant, and they say that they are in active negotiations with someone from Albany who needs additional warehouse space to potentially buy it right now. So we had a number of interviews with employers, and if you move to the next slide here, the key takeaways that we got from them were that the business owners that we spoke with are largely from the community. There are a few examples of those who are otherwise like Alternatives Plus, like I just mentioned, but they again have their owners are from far away, but the managers and the other people who are largely still from the community here. A lot of them are engaged locally. They're involved with fundraisers, the large Halloween festivities you have here, and a number of them. The people choose to be here, and when you talk about where they would like to expand, many say that they want to expand within the town and are looking specifically to expand within the town. They like the existing community character. Excuse me, that's my phone. And I thought it was
That's what's going to happen to me if I
I turned mine off.
shut it off. Thank you for reminding us all.
The existing community character is seen as a positive. People like the small town feel. They sort of like the pace of the existing town. There is enthusiasm for the community center. Despite that, there's still excitement to see some growth and some continued growth happening in the area, and the town committing to doing some work in the area. A number of them cited that they have workforce and recruitment issues. And Peckham in particular said that they had some public perception, about how the quality of their jobs that they would like to try to turn around, and they don't feel that the local community understands the way that they work now as opposed to the way that they worked a number of years ago. And from business to business, it varied a little bit about specific opinions on the town. We did say we would anonymize our results, so we won't get into specifics, but some of the businesses were very positive about the town, felt there was a lot of support, and no one was particularly upset at the town in a way that I've experienced while talking to other business owners in the past and their municipalities. But there's some moderate frustration that happens when there are regulations that happen and the town enforces them. One of those regulations that business owners found frustrating was the signage regulations. That was noted a number of times, and they sort of felt it was confusing.
What regulation?
Signage. And all of them almost universally said that they would like to see more businesses in the area. Next slide, please. They also many of them cited a need for physical improvements, specifically sidewalks, improvements at the key intersection here. Some folks said, we should put a traffic circle, or we need a real light, or lots of things, Plowing was seen as a positive, specifically plowing of the sidewalks when that was done. So the Cleveland Avenue Playground, there was a call for safer walking paths to there. There's a number of businesses asked for the town to investigate the sewer more and see if that is more of a possibility. And then some placemaking activities, lighting, flowers, things that might keep the area feeling a little more, happy-go-lucky and more like a place, like a place people would want to go to and hang out in. Speed on Route 7 was almost universally, stated as a problem. And then a number of businesses asked for there to be intersection improvements everywhere from Airport Road all the way, to the main intersection here at Church Street and Buck Hill. And so also Church Street and 67E, that intersection was felt to be difficult to deal with. Potentially for delivery trucks, not so much for your very large trucks, your industrial trucks, but if there was a heavier volume of them, then that might end up being a problem. But right now, with the fairly low volume, that's not too much of an issue. And then general wayfinding and signage, people are unaware that there's public parking available, and also that, there are bus unloading zones are things that cause a lot of confusion between the businesses themselves and also the folks who are living in the town. Next slide. So next is we looked at properties with development potential. So what we did is, like I said, we examined 109 parcels. That was the area that's within the Village Center District, and then the abutting areas. We looked at a number of data points, including the flood map, wetlands, slope. Now, in this area, we don't have sort of wildlife concerns necessarily, but that was part of our criteria that we looked at. We looked at existing zoning. We looked at the potential that the town has already given to these spaces. And then we also looked at walkability. And then for observational review, we did facade, building conditions, considered just the general neighborhood context, and walkability was more in the observational review than a data review. Right. So we identified 15 lots of interest, within 3 categories. So I've categorized them onto maps in this space that we'll look at in just a second. Large lots, one area that I'm calling large lots, one area that I'm calling prime intersection lots, and another group that I'm calling lots with infill or outbuilding potential. Now, again, as a disclaimer, this is largely an exercise in imagination. I'm trying to balance these with market and environmental realities. Private property rights are a real concern, and the idea is to give private property owners voluntary options that they can consider, and that we would like to see them potentially bring their building up to a highest and best use. That being said, housing is still a very high and very valuable use, especially right now as we have a housing crisis that we are currently talking about and addressing constantly through the political channels right now, and so ultimately, the balance of these things, as I talk about certain spaces and how they might become activated with commercial, whether or not the value of them switching to commercial versus housing may depend on how the town continues to build housing in and around the South Shaftsbury area. Mm-hmm. Next slide, please. So the first one is looking at development potential for large lots. Now, there aren't very many parcels here in the area that have more than 2 acres of lot space here at all, and some of them are deceptively smaller than they have large lot space, but they already have multiple units or multiple buildings on them. But the 4 that we identified that were large lots that had some potential for redevelopment would be the main one, of course, being the Eagle Square. That's number 1. That's 372 Vermont Route 67E. Now that has again some potential for redevelopment and reuse. It has actually very good quality buildings on it right now. By mostly thinking about it this way, redevelopment and reuse in a way where you maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to have more commercial space in there, or it's not in a good intersection for traffic and things like that, but as a potential for some kind of jobs creation space, there is some potential there for, again, there's a potential buyer for that space right now, so we are not saying that there should be any activities that necessarily go there, but it is one of the spots that we noticed is not fully utilizing all of its capacity under existing zoning. We also looked at the self-storage area. That's number 2 there. They're in a yellow, so they didn't get quite as high of a developmental score there, largely because there's just an extreme amount of demand for self-storage right now. And they have a lot of their square footage already being used. But they overall are on a very good space. If there was any kind of demand for something like a larger retailer that would come in, like a Family Dollar scale or something like that, that seems like one of the few spaces within the study area that would be able to accommodate that type of a size of a building and that type of a parking necessity. Site 3 is the site that the town will be voting on potentially for a new town hall home. Whether or not that is continued to be privately owned or whether that's something the town owns, obviously depends greatly on that, but there was some unused development potential there. And it's also access to, it's a long driveway access, but it is a large lot, which gives it more flexibility. And then site number 4 is in the south area of the town, and that's on the entry, on the approach into town on the right-hand side. It's a very large lot, and they really only have one home on there. It is a lot that has the potential to subdivide into a place with multiple homes, or have a type of business come in and potentially build more.
I thought it had sold
It was sold.
just a few weeks ago, maybe.
Perhaps it did, but I mean, as far as looking at what the development potential is there, that one has a
Big development.
a good amount of development potential, and that's the kind of thing where you might see a company that comes in and want to do something like something along the more lines of like a spa or something, where they would want to have a couple of buildings all linked together, and maybe go further back in the woods and be a little more private, but still have access to the sort of main road and the sort of town feel. That might be a space for that type of development.
Can I just make a comment about number 3 while we're talking about this?
Sure.
This goes sort of beyond the scope of what you're saying, but since we're talking about it, I want to mention that the condominium agreement for number 3 specifies that it can only be used for professional offices. So it can't be a commercial business space unless the other member of the condominium were to sell out to the, just for you to know.
Thank you. Next. And then finally, places with infill and outbuilding potential. So again, there's not a ton of infill capacity because we have extremely small lots in this area, but a number of buildings have side buildings that may act or potentially be converted. At 41 Church Street, which is just adjacent to the auto shop, there's a home, and then next to that home is a nice garage that has frontage to the street. That's the kind of thing that if you look up in other areas of the state have been converted into something like a glass blower shed or things like that. And similar to number 2 on here, 72 Buck Hill Road, which is, there's a barn space across the street here. Those things could be turned into again, some kind of a antique shop or something like that is sort of a typical use for those types of spaces. Number 3, that is a very deep lot that has a lot more acreage than you anticipate because it sort of stretches out behind the elementary school. That would be an interesting space to potentially consider if there's ever a transfer of the property, the town stepping in and helping to create a right-of-way between the school to get a little bit of an easier pathway to the sidewalk on that space. But also there's a building there that doesn't take up the entire frontage of the space, and there's nothing else sort of built on that lot, so they do have more development potential there. Next slide. Here we go. Finally, the infill. So we're zoomed in now just to the main corner here at Route 7 and Buck Hill Road, and the key space that we would like to see improved is at the key intersection. So in retail analysis, the way that it's done, or was taught to me at least in grad school, you often want to identify your prime intersection within a business district, and then sort of make sure that is a thriving area, and then from that other growth can happen. So that's sort of the reason why we focused on this particular intersection, and it's unfortunate that 3 of the 4 corners are not developed and active spaces right now. Space number 1, 969, that is a space that is already queued up to be some form of a publicly opened, public-facing retail space, and is actively right now only being used as a storage and a warehouse space. So that's the exact type of place that it would be great if the town could develop a relationship with the property owner and try to figure out, ways to hook them up with other potential tenants that would be looking to potentially settle in the area. Sites 2, 3, and 4, there are a lot of extremely small lots here that again fit in that sort of more your outbuilding cottage industry sort of scenario. There's a world where, again, these are all owned by separate private property owners, but there's a world where you could have a small plaza sort of develop between those 3 buildings as they exist now, and people would be able to shop at them and sort of be a little bit off the road there, but there's a number of the size of the buildings fits fairly well with that sort of retail experience and that sort of cottage scale. Number 5 is the multifamily building on the southeast corner of the intersection, and while again I spoke earlier about the sort of highest and best use, housing is very important. It's a very prominent building and a commercial space that was active there, and that was well maintained there, would do a lot for the town as far as people considering it a commercial space. The other thing, space number 6, which is just the parking lot where I parked my car across the street here. That's for Cole Hall. In particular, if the town is moving a lot of their offices to down the way, that's a real potential opportunity for the town to think about something like, leasing that space to a food truck or something that could pop in there very quickly, and bring some additional activity to the downtown area. Next slide. So just a general development overview, looking at the data of the existing businesses and sort of what our retail demand is based on the spending we talked about earlier. There's fairly high opportunities for neighborhood goods and services, more things that fit into the corner store sort of category. People wanting pharmacies and things in sort of that space. Those are your neighborhood goods and services. Food and beverage, there's a little bit of a demand, but a lot of that is just really being taken up by external sources. Obviously you've got North Bennington very close here, and less of a opportunities for your general merchandise, apparel, furnishings, and others. You've got things like on the other side of the Shaftsbury border, you have the Market Wagon, and you have antique stores, and you go straight north, and that's where your chocolate shop is, further in the northern parts of Shaftsbury. And again, like I said, North Bennington to the west has a lot more of that type of items. So there's less of an opportunity here, I think, because most of that most of the spending for that is happening kind of locally already. Industry opportunities. Again, there's some high probability for warehousing, moderate probability for manufacturing, and then something like an innovation hub. There are some conversations that are happening, and actually T&M, who is the business that we refer there, they were part of a business incubator process that would be a similar situation to an innovation hub, is what we're calling them now, but 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they mostly called them business incubators. And there could be some opportunity for something like that, but it's less likely unless other sorts of things are going to be in place, like more food service opportunities, which again is highly limited because you don't have sewer in the area. So the amount of seats you can have at a restaurant is limited by your ability to process waste and how many bathrooms you can have. And again, with extremely small lots here, and this is something that also the village. The Village General Store, has taken away their seating that they had when they first came in because of that, not meeting state guidelines related to sewage capacity for tables.
We're working on it.
But we do think there's still lots of opportunity for growth, despite there not necessarily being a lot of retail and industry opportunities, and that's largely in continuing to lean into Shaftsbury as being a service hub and a service industry hub, and also as a place where people who want to own their own businesses, run their own businesses, whether that's a side hustle or whether that's some other sort of home service that they're operating out of their their admin out of their home office. We think that that's really an identity that Shaftsbury could lean into, and those opportunities are largely in the healthcare, childcare, senior care, like I said, services space, home services, automotive services, business services, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so as far as a checklist for a vibrant downtown, this comes from an American Planning Association document, but largely, for a town to be vibrant and people to see it and want to go back and come regularly, you need them to be well managed. So you need a town that's very dedicated to managing it. Like I said, those placemaking activities, you want to have flowers up on your lampposts. You want to make sure that the streets, the sidewalks are clean. The benefit of the one thing I said, like the sidewalk being plowed, things like that are well associated. Retail appropriate. Now you don't have a lot of spaces that are retail appropriate. Some of them would have to be converted into retail appropriate from housing, but you want to make sure that the spaces are there. Mixed. You do not currently have a lot of mixed right here. Again, there's not a lot of uses. There's not a lot of types of stores. There's not a lot, and there are a lot of services, but you don't have a lot of different types of stores here. You have the zoning for mixed use, which is great, but you don't have necessarily that happening where you have a lot of public facing businesses in here as well. You have safe, so you have a pretty good perception of safety here. Crime and, is there, traffic is not potentially there. Championed, it seems like, between the Economic Development Committee and the town, and even just wanting this sort of report, it seems like you have a bit of a champion in this, plus everything we talked about, the businesses, seems like there's a lot of real love for the town from the residents and the business community, so we feel that that's pretty there. Anchored, we feel like you're about to become much better anchored with the development of a community facility here, and also with the commitment of Shaftsbury to keep their town offices here, instead of necessarily moving it to a different part of the town. Anchored is just anchor institutions, whether that is a town, whether that's some kind of a department store, or whether that's some other kind of hospital or something. Those tend to be anchor institutions. A walkable, again, you have a fairly walkable, well-connected area. Could be better connected for a couple of things, especially around the railroad tracks. And then otherwise just unified, like the identity looks, the same and feels the same, and that people are taking care of their property, things like that. So that is people do tend to do all that in this space. So you've got a lot of the checklists for a vibrant downtown already happening. Next slide. I think that's it. Yep. So I hope that was informative, and I hope that was something you can learn. I'm going to be getting the resource list. Like I said, it's going to be largely the summaries of business interviews and the business inventories that we've gathered will be shared with the Economic Development Committee, who I just agreed to meet with at their meeting next week on the 11th. So I'll also be following up with them and giving them a bit more of a detailed report and answering their questions about the study as well.
Anybody have any questions that weren't answered by that? Really?
So much to think about. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Huge scope.
Well,
Very cool.
It's not a question, but I think the way to look, so we have a Economic Development Committee meets Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Scott will be there. I think before that, I'll have some of this information that I'll share with the committee so that we have a little time to look over stuff, have a more robust conversation, and then we'll probably report back to the select board, after that. So that's my expectation of how.
Great. So sometime in March.
I would say, yes.
Thank you.
while I'm here, I also would like to ask, now I know that we shifted the municipal planning grant, the state shifted the municipal planning grant schedule this year. Normally we would have finished all that up, by December, but now applications only opened up last week. We have until March to fill them out. I am not sure if the town of Shaftsbury plans on applying for one this year or not. If they are, I just wanted to say that Bennington County Regional Commission is available to help you put that together. And feel free to reach out to me or Bill Colvin to discuss that further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Wonderful report. Lots of depth.
Yeah.
So many things.
So many things. So many things to think about. Whew.
Eye-opening info.
Yeah. Fascinating statistics. Okay. We have next on the agenda a question from the CCDC, it says. And I think Benedict is here to pose that question, but I'm just guessing. Yeah.
So the CCDC has been looking at the possibility of moving the town offices over to the Shaftsbury Medical Building. We've been trying to anticipate what the costs of doing that are, and it looks like most of the costs are covered by the current ARPA funds that have been put aside. One of the opportunities that we have, so we're looking at carpeting, painting.
Flooring,
What?
flooring.
Yeah, flooring. But most of it's carpet.
Yeah, but we're not putting it in. We're ripping it up, we're not putting it back.
Ripping the carpeting up, right?
We're not putting carpeting in, that's all she's saying.
Yeah, no.
Floor,
It's
yeah, I know.
it's a renovation.
Yes.
And
Semantics.
trying to think about the costs of getting the building prepped for moving in.
Yeah.
One of both the opportunities and the challenges is a new vault. The current vault is at the edge of being outgrown. There are requirements for having a fireproof vault in the town offices, and the anticipated costs for a new vault in the new town offices is about $100,000 or $110,000. So that's the opportunity that we could have a vault that worked well for the future of the town. But the challenge is finding the money to do that.
Because that's the part that really isn't covered by
The
the money
ARPA funds that we have set aside. So we're looking at $100,000 or $110,000 cost for that vault, and thinking, well, what's a way to fund the new vault? And so we're turning to you.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I will say what I know about this.
Yeah.
We are exploring grants for the vault. We are exploring options around what size a new vault really needs to be. We're exploring the rules and regulations from the state about what can be digitalized, what needs to be kept when we digitalize, and what does not need to be kept in a physical form when we digitalize, etc. So the things that we're exploring, as I understand it, have to do with the potential size, which may not need to be quite as big as we thought, and the possibility of grants. Because it seems pretty reasonable that since the state requires the town to provide a vault by legislation, that it should be willing to give grants. Do you have, I summarized part of what I've heard from your research, but
So there is a state office and several folks that are charged with dealing with municipalities and what goes in vaults. And so we have started the conversation to talk about that and potentially to have them down to take a look at what our current vault has, and guidance as far as a kind of a record management policy, which many towns that are larger than us already have, that we don't currently have as a town of Shaftsbury, to start that process as well, to kind of talk about what does, I think like Naomi said, need to be in the vault versus what doesn't need to be in a vault. And there's a lot of data that's coming from multiple departments from the state, because they all have a different piece of it, and so
because it's changing a
it's
bit.
changing a little bit as well, and so it's an ongoing, I think, movement for.
Well,
okay, and Marlene wants to say
I need to be in on these conversations. The vault is my purview. I have to protect it.
Yeah.
And we have to build something larger than what we need for the future. So we can't skip on the vault. That's all I'm saying. We can't skip on the vault.
We need to do what we need to do. We just need to find out what it is we need to do, right?
And what the state requires, and
Of
it's
course.
changing. So I think that talking with all of those different departments in things, I think is important as we kind of talk about these things and
Right.
try to find funding. And
We're trying to back you up by doing
Yeah,
research about this.
But I need to be involved in it.
When we have the data, we're going to give it to you. But you're also the person looking for grants, right? When I say we're looking for grants, I'm essentially thinking
I
of you.
haven't had time to look for grants yet.
But you will be, so.
But,
So-
but it's, the other thing is, it seems like it's only the vault that everybody's talking about going over the amount. The vault's a piece of this. And yeah, I would love to get a grant, I hope we can. But maybe we could get grants for other portions of it too, to help the entire project.
That seems somehow those things are less discreet, less encapsulated. I guess that's why I've been thinking of them as less grant-worthy. I mean, flooring and
Yeah,
replacement
yeah.
of sheetrock is
But
not sort of.
rehabbing a building to make it a town office there should be grants hopefully available for that also, I
Yeah,
would think.
hopefully there are.
Yeah.
Well, and our concern as a committee is that we want to be sure that the populace is aware of the costs of doing this, and that's, in our minds, one of the big questions at the moment.
Is that extra
Yeah.
potential $110,000?
And that's kind of our best guess at the moment as to what it might cost to do. We've been in touch with fireproof vault people and even had one here to take a look. But we're trying to answer all those questions that have come up in the committee meeting.
I'm not sure we know anything more than you do in that sense.
No,
I mean, we're working on it, and
But I wanted to express our concern about that aspect of it.
and sort of get our commitment to, in some way, coming up with that money. Is that?
Yeah, be our backstop.
Yeah.
You bet.
And we gotta move out of this vault.
Well,
Yeah,
so
it's dangerous.
We would need to, I think that's a big important piece of it. We need to replace this vault anyway. Things are getting moldy in there,
Right.
literally.
yeah.
In addition to that, we've outgrown it. So that's an expense that the town would have faced irrespective of where we
Right.
house our municipal offices. So it doesn't seem like, I don't know, I mean, we have to face that expense. And in that sense, I personally don't feel very worried about it, but what do my colleagues think?
I think that I think we need to understand the state statutes and also be talking to these folks that do this for the state of Vermont has these liaisons to municipalities for this very reason. And so before we kind of have these answers and kind of more clarification, it's hard to know, yes, I agree that we need to have a vault space and we need to have it, but what gets put in it, what needs to be in it, all of these things, the specifications, all of these things are spelled out in all sorts of different departments within the state government. And so we need to kind of navigate that, I think, as we kind of are gathering knowledge so that then we can make the best decision. We decide kind of what kind of space we need, how big it needs to be, what kinds of things go in it, how we plan for the future, because we can't get a cost for something and kind of start writing grants and things like that before we kind of know what our charge is, I guess,
Right.
is what I would say. And so, we're in progress of doing some of these things and receiving kind of slow information. And I think one of the steps that likely will have to happen is having one of these folks come down. They do site visits to kind of discuss things and to start creating a record policy, because obviously if we kept every document that kind of manifests out of this huge space, with all of the different departments, we would need infinite space because we would continue to require documents, whereas getting things digitized and other things, and what that requires, whether you need to keep, backups or if they get stored in the cloud versus not. I mean, you pull one thread and there's, I feel like 5 more threads that come out of questions that people have already kind of thought about and talked through, and so therefore we're just kind of, I feel like, at the very beginning of our dialogue, I guess is what I feel like.
And all of that, I just want to stress, all of that is something we would be facing at this juncture anyway.
Right.
Because the stuff in that vault is endangered. It's getting moldy. And so that's part of why it seems to me like a separate issue from the purchase of the building, because the vault issue needs to be dealt with. I mean, if we stayed right here, we would need to, right, Marlene?
Absolutely.
It's on its last creaking legs.
I'm completely out of room down there.
Yeah.
And I have taken a few trainings on vaults throughout the years.
Yes.
And it is in the state constitution that all of that has to be backed up by paper by the town. So it's not like I'm keeping a lot of things I shouldn't be.
Right.
I'm keeping the things I need to.
Right.
So what's being digitized?
The land records, but we can't get rid of the paper copies.
deeds.
The paper copies.
No, we have to keep them. I know, but thank God we have to keep them, because if something happens to the computers, they'd be gone.
Right.
And if something
I know,
happens
I'm
to the
thinking of
vault,
the- I'm thinking
we
of
have
the
the computer
technology,
backup. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to have the
Yeah.
backup, but we do need both,
Yeah.
just for the safety of how important those records are. It's the history of our town.
But we need it no matter where we are.
Exactly.
And we don't have it. And we don't even have a place to put it that's safe, because you say if you leave the door open for a little while, like it gets moldy in there.
I used to, in the summer, when I was down there, summer's worse, I would have to empty the dehumidifier once or twice a day, every day. Now that the door's being closed all the time, I haven't emptied that in weeks. But A, it's colder out, so there's not as much water seeping in because the ground's frozen. But B, because that vault is closed most of the time now, I'm not emptying it nearly as much as I used to have to. It was daily, at least once, sometimes twice a day. So.
And that would resume with the warm weather, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
No matter where it is.
No matter.
I mean, in a sense, we have to rebuild the vault, no matter
Right,
where
right,
we
yep.
do that, right?
Exactly.
So I just don't see it as a piece of the expense of that building. Are you with me, Ben?
But we can't move the building without
We can agree to disagree.
Okay. Would you like to disagree out loud?
I'm worried that, I feel the responsibility of the committee to identify all the possible sources of expenses. And this is one of them that's certainly at the moment more puzzling than others for some of the reasons that you said. I'm concerned about that.
But if we made the vault too small now, we're looking at bigger expenses.
Of course, we're going to make it as big as we need to make it.
Yeah.
But we would have to make it that big no matter where it were.
Right,
was
exactly.
Where to go,
Exactly.
yeah?
Right. It's an expense we would have no matter what.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that poor vault downstairs.
We can agree on
is
that.
Better days.
Yo. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We didn't answer your question.
No, well, I didn't expect to go home and have a complete answer.
I think we'd have
Do you have 100,000 somewhere? Yeah.
I'm
What,
looking.
Mike?
Yeah, we would have to look for these grants, and then, if we don't get all of it, it would just have to become a budgeted item that we bring
Yeah,
access for.
for sure.
So,
Yeah, like a really bad snowy winter.
Right.
Right. Paul's got a comment.
I'm sorry, Paul.
as town administrator and co-chair of the CCDC.
Thank you.
I have a few things to say. So if this is something, there's no difference between us needing a new vault, no matter where it is, and we're needing a new fire truck, we're needing a new DPW, what are they called? The ones that you want to fix all the time, Mike? There's literally.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the ones that break down all the time. There's no difference. So whether we have to get grants, we're obviously going to leave no stone unturned. We have to look at grants. We might have to look at bonds or loans for municipalities are always subprime. The USDA has them, the Vermont Bond Bank has them. If it's a 5-year or a 10-year, it's not, of course we'd have all the numbers. It wouldn't be that much per taxpayer, but this is an investment in the town. It's a vault. It's a fire truck. It's a plowing truck. It's all the same. Doesn't matter why we need it or how big we need it, or none of that matters. We need it.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
The end. Thank you for coming to my
Thank
TED
you.
Talk.
Well put. Your brief but spectacular take on.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for all your work on that.
Yeah.
This committee's been working their butts off. They say, so myself.
What?
We've been working our butts off, our committee.
Yeah,
They're doing huge work.
I know.
Huge work.
It's like the hardest working committee in the town.
Business committee in Shaftsbury.
All right. Any other business?
I don't think so.
No? Paula, any other
I
business?
am, said my piece.
And beautifully said it was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, review of action items.
I don't think that
have.
we had many for this evening.
No.
I think we're going to be awaiting the Economic Development Committee in March on all of the good work that was done with their BCRC. We're going to think about whether or not the town of Shaftsbury is going to apply for a municipal planning grant and what we might use that for, because we
Yeah, that's an
typically-
important action item.
Yeah, we typically do, I think, have for at least the last few years,
Yeah.
applied for municipal planning grants for a host of
That's right.
things, whether it was zoning.
Thank you for coming, Rick.
Thank you. Good night. So I think both of those would be the big action items that I came up with.
Been researching other grants for me. That's why grant
okay.
research.
Grant
Yeah,
research.
Grant research,
Great.
yes. Well, it's municipal. Jen?
I'm sorry, I said a security grant might qualify for the
That's a good
vault
idea.
from the federal government once they unfreeze the grant thing.
Grants are going to become more competitive.
Yes.
Yes, but that's a great
It's a
idea.
really good idea.
I know.
We're full of good ideas here at Cole Hall.
Okay, are there any other good ideas before we actually, okay, going once, going twice. Can I actually have a motion to move into executive session on personnel?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tony, for seconding.
7:16.
At 7:16, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just say.
400. We will,
Any action item, or votes?
we are not going to be
She said.
Yeah, no action.
announcing anything or voting on anything when we come out, so